What does Tim Bradley think now after Shakur's bad performance versus Edwin de los Santos about a possible fight between Gervonta Davis and Shakur Stevenson? That's what I want to talk about in this video. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I am back with some more boxing. Boxing, expect the unexpected, the theater of the unknown. Tim Bradley had a lot to say in the last few years, basically. But even recently, before Shakur fought Edwin de los Santos, regarding a fight between Gervonta Davis and Shakur Stevenson, he said that Gervonta Davis was going to get exposed by Shakur Stevenson, right? He says, and I quote, just so you guys, I want to remind you of the tweets. Quote, Tank is going to get exposed soon. If he gets in there with the right guy like Shakur Stevenson, he going to get exposed. I'm noticing a pattern with a lot of PBC fighters. Inactivity is one of them. When they do get in there with the live dog and they get hit in the face, they all bow out. A lot of the guys do. End quote. Now, at this point, I think it's safe to say Tim Bradley is in full company man mode, tap dancing for ESPN and just kind of saying and doing the company's biddings. And it's always negative towards PBC. That part is obvious. I remember the rant he did with Errol Spence. He was like, Terrence Crawford, all these PBC fighters are ducking him. He's begging. Bradley then went on to say that Deontay Wilder was literally the only PBC fighter that he respected because he fought an ESPN fighter, Tyson Fury, which is utterly ridiculous when you look at the scope of things and you see how big and vast Al Heyman's stable is. And out of all of those fighters, you mean to tell me you only have respect for Deontay Wilder, only one person out of that big, vast stable? I mean, it's just, what did Jesus Ramos do? What did he do wrong? So that just sounds foolish. But back to Gervonta Davis and Shakur, listen, I think one of the things, I do not prefer Bradley's commentary. I've said that before. I'll say it again. He's too over the top. And that's just not my speed for boxing commentary. Like, for example, if I'm watching a fight, I want to see little to no commentary or hear little to no commentary. And the things that you are saying should be really relevant to the action that's going on instead of just forecasting a bunch of opinions. And then those opinions are always wrong. Like literally on the Shakur Stevenson telecast, he kept saying when the Navarrete fight was on with Robson Conceição, this is Olympian, keep in mind, Robson Conceição. He was saying it was literally round 5, and Tim Bradley said on air that the end is near. That's a direct quote. Quote, the end is near for Robson Conceição, right? So the end is near means he was about to get knocked out. Needless to say, the fight went on for 7 more rounds and went the full distance, 12 rounds. And not to mention, Robson Conceição, he got dropped throughout the fight twice, and he was winning some of the later rounds, namely the 12th and final round. So you had Bradley say a guy was going to get knocked out and say the end is near, but that end never came until the end of the fight, and then it was ruled a draw. So if you listen to the ESPN commentary, they would lead you to believe that Navarrete was in full control and dispatching and pulverizing Robson Conceição. But then when it went to the judges, they had it close and they had it a draw. You know what I mean? So completely different things. You can go listen, no matter what my fight prediction is or who I picked for the fight, you listen to my Boxingego watch parties and I keep showing you. I tell you and then I show you. I'm the best in the business when it comes to this. You listen to the watch parties, all of my dialogue matches the actual fight. And you don't see me backing off the block saying, oh, so-and-so is going to get knocked out. Just wait. He's about to get knocked out. And then the person survives for another 7-8 rounds. Like it just doesn't, it's never happened thus far. Knock on wood. But that's Bradley's style of commentary. So he said all this stuff about Tank will be exposed. Tank will be exposed. and it's like he has like a personal vendetta against Tank Davis. Now, after Shakur's performance, you look kind of foolish because the way you were putting it on thick, I don't really know many people that have. Boxing is a sport of what have you done for me lately, and they always say you're only as good as your last performance. Unfortunately for Shakur Stevenson, his last performance, Edwin de los Santos, has been reamed and completely ridiculed. And a lot of people, let's just be honest, have lost faith in seeing Shakur and or seeing him against some of the bigger names. Like, I've seen it all throughout the internet since the fight happened on a Thursday. People are saying stuff, whether you think it's right or wrong, they're saying stuff like, oh, I thought Shakur was better than this. I thought he was more skilled. He disappointed me with his performance. Oh, he can't beat this guy. Devin Haney should offer him 5%, 10%. I'm seeing it all on the internet. And if you don't see it, then you're bird box. You got your eyes closed or a blindfold on. It's very easy to see. And, Shakur's going to have to battle back from that type of criticism. But the point I'm making is you said all this like brazen stuff about Tank will be exposed. And realistically, if we're really being honest, Shakur didn't even expose Edwin de los Santos. Shakur talked all of his stuff. Edwin talked all of his stuff. And neither one of them really did too much. And I hold Shakur because he was the favorite. So you got to hold him to a higher standard. He has more fights. He was supposed to be the favorite, longer reach, taller. And he was like, Edwin, you little. He was saying these types of things. You little to me. You not big. I thought you was bigger. Shakur also went on and said, I'm going to F you up. And he's saying all these things with conviction, only for him to turn in the performance that he turned in. And ESPN tried to nice it up by saying that Shakur Stevenson, his hand was broke or messed up. I've heard his hand. Tim Bradley said he talked to Mark Kriegel and they said something was wrong with his hand. Bob Arum saying something's wrong with his shoulder. So it's like all over the place off of a bad performance. We don't do that. And for Bradley, I want to know, does he really feel what he said prior about Tank will be exposed? It's funny that you said Tank will be exposed by Shakur Stevenson, and then Shakur Stevenson fought a dangerous southpaw, and people are saying he was exposed and the performance was underwhelming. So it's literally when Bradley says a fight prediction, you almost can rest assured that if you go with the opposite prediction, that you'll probably be on the right track. You literally said Tank will be exposed. And then you talk about inactivity, but that doesn't really even apply to Tank. Tank fought in January against an Olympian, Hector Luis Garcia, and then he came back and fought against Ryan Garcia. So he got 2 fights as a superstar boxer. He didn't have to fight 2 times. Some boxers, Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence, they're only fighting 1 time this year, right? And it's funny and ironic that company man Timothy Bradley, he won't mention these things. He loves Crawford. He said, oh, Crawford this and Crawford that. But you're talking about PBC fighters having inactivity. I don't think Crawford really identifies as a PBC fighter, and he only fought 1 time. So what is this inactivity conversation? And we could dive deeper. We could talk about top-ranked fighters. There are some top-ranked fighters that aren't the most active, like Artur Beterbiev. Artur Beterbiev last fought against probably Anthony Yard, and that was in January of this year. So you're like, oh, Caleb Smith is an injury. I don't care. He's inactive. The bottom line remains the same, is he fought 1 time this year in the first year or the first month of this year, and he ain't been back since. Tank fought twice. So what are you talking about, inactivity? And as far as the inactivity conversation, while I do believe inactivity can play a part on a fighter's career, not the way Tim Bradley is saying it. So, for example, this is what happens, and let's just cut to the chase. Top Rank, they'll put a lot of their fighters in grooming / showcase fights. So, yeah, of course, they're going to be active. Like you look at Fernando Vargas' son, you can bring him back 1,000 times, because he's building up his resume and learning on the job and that kind of thing, right? Keyshawn Davis, you can have him fight 3-4 times because you're not paying him like superstar money, and he's not fighting like super dangerous fights. But let's see Keyshawn Davis fight against Jermaine Ortiz, then Lomachenko, and then fight, Murataya or something, back to back to back. He's not going to be fighting 3-4 times a year. But if he's fighting against guys that Rolly beat and knocked out, like Anthony Yiggett, yeah, you can afford to have him back at back. You know what I mean? So I think I've always been a fan of quality over quantity. You get what I'm saying? Like Tank Davis fought Hector Luis Garcia, an Olympian who beat Chris Colbert and dropped him, right? And Ryan Garcia, who's undefeated. So you mean to tell me you would rather see Keyshawn Davis fight 4 times against, maybe Jose Pedraza, who is at the back half of his career and Tank already beat like several years ago? You want to see Keyshawn Davis fight him and Anthony Yiggett and guys you're not really even familiar, like Woo Woo, and guys like that? Come on, bro. So that activity thing is overstated. Yeah, Top Rank has a lot of activity, but who are the matches? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like Murataya just fought an undefeated guy, but it was some undefeated guy who basically was from Mexico, and he hadn't fought nobody. So it's again, it's gonna be a lot easier to bring those guys back repeatedly than superstars like Crawford and Errol Spence and people who are demanding these big salaries. Let me know what you guys think. Who would you favor, Shakur or Gervonta, after recent performances? Let me know, and I'm out.